Even though we're living in an age where technology is constantly evolving and most of the modern media that we consume is available in a digital format, it's fascinating to see that not only has there been a steady interest in older or outdated technologies like vinyl records, film photography, and vintage cameras, but there's also more recently been a huge revival and increase in demand for these types of things from, I guess what you could call the analog era, where information was stored on things like discs, video cassette tapes, film, rather than directly onto electronic devices and on SD cards like they are today. I grew up in the 90s, so I still vaguely remember the time period where analog devices were the only options that we had. So my interest is rooted purely in nostalgia. It reminds me of my childhood. And as I've gotten older, it's kind of interesting to have seen this shift from like more physical to digital format. And so I can't help myself from comparing the two. A couple of years ago, I made a detailed video where I was testing out an old Sony Handycam camcorder that uses Hi8 video cassette tapes. I'll go ahead and link that video if you're interested in watching it. And while I do love this camcorder, it's very bulky. It's hard to carry around, especially because I carry so many cameras with me on a regular basis. And I'm very afraid of something happening to it because it was a hand-me-down from my dad. So I actually got another Sony Handycam camcorder that I was able to buy new. This one is still being manufactured. The other one is discontinued, and I use this pretty often. The size is great, it's very portable, it's very easy to use, and it has a continuous recording time, which a lot of my other digital cameras don't have. I thought, why not put these two against each other, film a few things, compare the footage. I'll show you how I get the footage onto my laptop, and I'm also going to share a little editing tutorial at the end if you're interested in kind of how I edit my camcorder footage. But first, the sponsor for this video is Skillshare. I talk about Skillshare all the time, and if you're not familiar with it, it's an online learning community dedicated to teaching inspiring and creative classes for anyone who loves learning, whether it's a specific skill you're trying to start up or an existing interest that needs growth. There's tons of different topics and teachers you can choose from, and I did want to mention this one class I took by a YouTuber named Elise called Learn Adobe Premiere Pro and Edit a How-To Video for Beginners. Elise is a great teacher, and this class covers all the basics if you're just getting into using Adobe Premiere Pro. That's what I use for all my video editing and what I'll be using for the editing tutorial later on. I also just like to see the workflow of other YouTubers that I'm subscribed to and see if I can apply some of their techniques and tips to my own editing. Definitely recommend taking this class or any other class by Elise. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. Got the vlogging camera, both camcorders, and my handsome assistant is helping me out today.
That's me.
So let's go out and try and film some stuff. Alright, so now that we've moved both recordings onto my laptop, as I've shown, the digital camcorder files are on a mini SD card, and so that was transferred almost immediately. The Hi8 camcorder takes a little bit more time and equipment. I went over all of this in the dedicated video I mentioned before, but I'll relink all of the converter cables that I used in order to connect this to my computer. Basically, once I was able to play the footage on my laptop, I screen recorded that into a single file that I'm able to edit into this video. So pulling up a side-by-side comparison, I'm going to use a close-up of this flower. For Hi8, the aspect ratio is typically 4:3 because the standard TV format back in the day was full screen and not widescreen, or 16:9, which is probably what you're watching this on. So it looks like it has these black borders on the sides when watching on more modern electronic devices. The HD camcorder aspect ratio is 16:9, so no black borders, because it takes up the entirety of the screen. As you can also see, the video resolution of each of these is very different, with the HD camcorder video format at 1920 by 1080 and the Hi8 camcorder video format at 640 by 480. Not only is this a screen recording, I also stretched this footage to fit the widescreen, so that obviously results in a loss in quality in comparison. Moving into the editing tutorial, since the popularity of the analog aesthetic is so high, I thought about trying to edit the digital camcorder footage to look more like analog camcorder footage. I don't usually edit my digital footage to the extent I'm about to show you, but I do use some of these effects with my digital camcorder from time to time. I know that this can be very controversial among the analog community, but this is just for fun. Some people don't have access to analog equipment, and I always get questions about alternative ways to get that retro look while editing, so let's just get into it. In Adobe Premiere Pro, I'm going to have comparison view on so I can try and match the look of this as much as possible. Also going to add an adjustment layer over the top of the HD footage to make my edits. That way I'm not messing with the original file, all the changes will just be made to this layer. Popping over to effects, I'm typing in Lumetri color, add that to my adjustment layer, and we're going to go through this and make some adjustments. Starting with temperature, bringing that down to like -35. Contrast, I'm bringing that up to 50. Highlights, let's do 25. Whites, let's also do 25. And blacks, I think we'll do like 50. Under creative, faded film, let's increase to 30. Sharpen, -50. Vibrance, we'll do -30. And I think saturation, 75. Looking back at the Hi8 footage, there's kind of like a colorful fuzziness here at the edges. So one way to recreate that is using the channel blur effect. And I'm going to copy and paste this effect so that we have two of them. Under blur dimensions, selecting horizontal for one of the effects and vertical for the other. For the horizontal channel blur, I'm increasing the red blurriness to 30, and the vertical channel blur, changing the blue blurriness to also 30. The final effect is to add unsharp mask, and playing around with this, settling on 100 for the amount, and the radius at 8. Kind of finishes off the look and adds a sharpness that you can kind of see in the Hi8 footage. And I think I'm going to stop here. I feel like this is close enough. Though if you wanted to add those like black borders on the sides, you could always just crop them on the left and right. I think 12% is good. The color and the highlights are a little bit off, so I'm just going to adjust that a tiny bit. And that's close enough for me. That is pretty much it for this video. Would love to know your thoughts on analog versus digital. What you think about editing digital footage to look more like analog footage. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!